Madison time. Hit it.
Really like this movie, even though it kind of depressed the shit out of me. I mean, at first I was like, "Oh God, John, what is this?" And then I kind of got into it, and I found the conversations to be really, really interesting. And I thought, just like what you said, like if the last movie was a really interesting LA movie, I thought this is. I mean, I love Paris, one of the most beautiful cities on the planet, if not the most beautiful city on the planet. And I loved seeing it, but I also just thought that it's kind of awe-inspiring to me that how he managed to set up, like how much of this was sort of shaped versus I'm just going to put the camera in the corner and let you three fuckers talk about whatever for a couple of hours and then we'll trim it. But to get through all of that and then to get to the bit at the end with De Gaulle and then to go and interview that woman in prison and to get to the final, which is at the end of the day, you guys haven't really, with all this new freedom you've got, you haven't figured out how to be happy. And to compare that against somebody who was locked up, I thought was really profoundly interesting, but at the same time, like, shit, when did this movie come out? And we're still here. Yeah.
Oops, we lost.
I'm here. Hang on.
Remember, they were in the depths of existentialism, right? It's all of their.
I mean, it's like it's sort of almost a French cliche. Right? I mean, what was the thing you picked a couple years ago that I loved? Masculine, feminine, which was a lot of also people in cafes talking
to each other. Yeah.
And that I also love that movie, and just that this was the real version of that movie. Several years later,
is the documentary version.
Yeah, and again,
but probably without what's her name.
The camera.
So it really hit French culture. It hit the French psyche hard.
Yeah.
Also, John, you got that scene behind you of all the cats. You know what? He wasn't kidding. Chris Marker apparently wasn't kidding when he said he liked cats more than dogs. Right?
He fucking loves cats.
He made a movie about cats.
Yes.
Oh, now
I think he made a whole movie. He used
now I know why I don't like him. No, I'm just
since we're talking about the groups of people, I love the kids. There's like 3 kids being interviewed. They look like they've just come out of school or something.
Yes.
The ones who want to be like stockbrokers.
Like stockbroker?
They're like, yes.
That was fun. That was fun.
Weird. And then the next group they meet is our stockbrokers get involved.
They're kind of criticizing the kids.
These children.
Right.
That was
fun. Then that guy ends up doing an interview after he tells them that they can't film interviews on the street.
There they are.
Yeah.
These old
my hero.
Those are fun. Okay. All right, here we go.
Because I hate to say it, I always wanted to be a gangster.
I'm glad everyone's in a great mood because this is how I feel about this film. Now, I went to San Francisco State, and that gives me a very thick skin about movies made by commies. Or communists or leftists or whatever. And this thing,
pinko bastards.
This thing is reflexively communist. It is a criticism of everything that's going on in there. It's like he openly disrespects his subjects over and over again. It's like, remember those women, I think are in a salon, are talking about religion and society. He says, I think that you prefer religion. You think it's the best light. You put communism in the worst light. Why is that? It's like he does this over and over again. The viewpoint of this film, he's looking down at everybody and thinking they're all just pathetic wage earners or people who are enslaved to Western.
You thought so? I did not get that at all.
Oh fuck yeah! Come on. It's like that's the thing. It's like I know this voice. This is French intellectuals were leftists and Marxists and communists. That's how that worked back then.
I agree that voice is there, Scott, but I don't think it permeates the whole film.
Okay, tell me one place where you think it had respect for the subjects.
When he was talking to the black guy about fucking racism.
Yes, that's right. And also talking about the priest turned a communist agitator, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And on and on and on and on. So it's
as Jim brought up at the beginning,
he hates his enemies, man.
That negates your art. I mean, were you expecting not to have an example there?
It doesn't negate the argument because those people are not part of the power structure.
No, but no, the thing is, you got to understand that he's trying to make he's using these interviews to make a statement about how corrupt and awful and westernized Paris is.
Well, and Jim brought up the guy that worked he was a mechanic in a garage, right, Jim?
And he's doing art.
He was painting.
I love that
paintings.
scene.
There were some places
that didn't have any.
There was actually some places of actual respect for artists. An artist is going to like artists. Am I right?
I think the woman you're talking about, she starts dissing on communists first, and he sort of just like responds in kind.
Yeah,
5 minutes in this movie.
Also, this is all about the events that happened around in May of 1962. This is the whole idea is that this is the first year Paris is at peace.
This would be a good double bill battle.
France is at peace since they moved out. They moved out of Algeria.
Or that other one, that other Godard.
Yeah, but I swear I'm going to get to that in just a second. But
2 or 3 things.
Yeah, 2 or 3 things.
I was going to go there too.
This is a lot like 2 or 3 things because it's lazy and communist. It's a lot like that.
Okay, that's a pretty good quote. Put that on the DVD.
Anyway,
put that on.
Yeah, 1962 is actually the weird thing is I found watching this film and doing these interviews with people on the street is that there's nothing special about May of 1962, nothing at all. If I sent you to Paris, John, with like a black magic camera and you shot interviews on the street, they'd be bitching about the same things. There's strikes.
And much is true.
Yeah,
and that shot that was
I have to go overseas, and I have to do this kind of thing, and it's like rents are too high, and the potatoes are 220 francs a kilo or whatever the fuck it was.
Well, to some extent, yeah. Some of it's very set in its time, in that they're talking about Algeria and they're talking about the war and stuff. I mean, things have changed.
Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed.
The specifics have changed.
No,
but
the history. The thing is, there's like remember at the 3/4 mark, there's a huge trial they're talking about. Andy, what the fuck you're talking about?
I didn't know what the trial was.
Of course,
I looked it up.
Of course you did.
It was a French
it was some kind of an atrocity that happened during the Algerian War.
Of course.
Basically.
Yeah, I figured it
out. But that's why the communists were marching on it.
He did he supported the Pied Noirs, the French born in Algeria. They tried to have a coup when the French government was trying to hand Algeria over to the Algerians. So he just decided, okay, boys, let's take over.
Oh, okay. Completely different.
And he was a war hero, which made it kind of strange.
I saw this as, again, it's like, so it's post-war. Things are, like the rebuilding we're sort of post-rebuilding. We're like in a new, you can think however you want. You can do whatever you want. You can hang out with whoever you want.
And
but it's still fucked up. People still are struggling to figure out a path to happiness. And that was the part that I found, you've got all this freedom, but you still can't, at least as much as this movie is concerned.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Chris, I'm gonna take your thing at face value because that's a good way of putting the point. Everyone's looking for happiness. Everyone wants to make money. Everybody wants to have a television. Everybody wants to be create art or be part of
they're trying to figure out their version of the American dream.
The very end of the film where he does this thing no man is free as long as there are prisons. No man is happy and if there's suffering. It's like he basically takes the entire lesson of the thing and kicks everybody in the fucking teeth.
You have to remember, right?
I'm a commie, and not one single person can be happy unless everybody is. We eliminate all injustice everywhere. He sounds like a 12-year-old.
I don't feel like the guy that he interviewed that was a communist. The guy that he interviewed was the hardcore. He gives 10, 15 minutes to the communists. And I did not feel at the end of the communists saying whatever the hell, here, man, I'm going to give you an uninterrupted 15 minutes. I don't know. I didn't feel like the guy made a terribly convincing argument for it.
No, he didn't. Actually, he was kind of hemming and hawing a little bit. That's the thing.
Which is also, again, if you feel like this is communist propaganda, he would have done a better job with that clip.
Yeah, because I don't think he did because
Marker is a leftist.
I don't know if what's actually going on in his life, but this is right after La Jetée, right?
I don't know.
It might be before La Jetée.
I think it's before.
It's before. Okay, never mind. Either way, never mind.
It's close. It's close, right? La Jetée's what, 65?
Also, aside from that, there's another thing he does in this film over and over again that's I actually got pretty funny, is he keeps reminding people about death. He's like this goth teen. He's like hanging around with a goth teen. And like the couple, the guy in the army and his new bride. How do you feel about dying? How about the end of your life? It's like it goes over and over again. They're like, if you're like, what the fuck? Okay, we're all gonna die. What do you want to hear from me? The woman with the cats, like,
he is going off to war.
How do you feel about that? That's my cat.
He is going off to war.
Yes.
Whatever. Who needs to be reminded of that shit? It's crazy.
I mean, Woody Allen made a whole career out of that.
Yeah, but he scripted it. He wasn't bothering people in public
his
about
was closer to Savage Eye because he was more of a friend.
Oh, first of all, that scene behind Chris was fun.
Oh yeah,
I think this. Yeah, I like this movie way more than Scott did. Clearly.
Also, there's a bit I love the dancing part. This is now the second film I've seen with the Madison in it. The other one's Hairspray.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
With what in it?
The Madison.
La
Jetée was 62, and this is 63.
Oh,
so it was
correct.
Okay, here's a theory I had.
So 1 year apart, this one later.
La Jetée was a big hit. La Jetée was like, oh my God, this guy made this a neat science fiction film that plays internationally in film festivals. So the money people in Paris or France said, go make a movie. It's like, okay, I have this idea. 55 hours of footage of people complaining about their lives in Paris. I'll make it work. Don't worry. And so it's a lot like Two or Three Things. It's like he wasn't thinking too much about what he was making. He just had to make it because he had to make it. Do you
know that for a fact, or is this conjecture?
No, that's conjecture.
Conjecture.
But the thing is, that's what happens after someone makes a big hit, though.
This is his one from the heart.
Yes, it's a sophomore. It's a sophomore effort. Yeah.
No,
I told you a lot to say about this film.
Better than one.
Yeah,
it is much better than one for the heart.
I'm just.
It's more like his Apocalypse Now.
I guess for me, it was like, thinking about the sort of existential, my daily existential dread living in North America in the year of our Lord 2024.
Don't get started, man.
Imagine a version of this movie being made now in America or in any big city in America. What would it be like? And
I don't know. I mean, there's an argument.
Maybe sort of a Richard Linklater film.
It was interesting to me just sort of thinking about. Well, this is a snapshot in time of Paris in 1962 when they're starting to figure shit out in what will be they can, this era of we're post-war, shit's starting to come together. We've got a lot of problems and we're trying to figure out our version of what we would call the American dream.
Right.
Just listening to these groups of people sort of talk in the abstract about what does this all mean for me? And like, I was really interesting to go, like when the camera would go and like to follow those kids, the immigrant kids living, showing how they live and talking to that African-American, like I thought that was interesting.
No, that's not an African-American. That's just a black guy in France, dude.
He's from Nigeria or something.
No, he's from Djibouti. He's not
American.
He's from Dahomey.
But again, all right. In any event, just his perspective, which was, this kind of sucks, but at the same time, he had like
I'm not going back.
A surprising lack of.
Would you go back? No way.
No way.
Also,
this was a lack of what? A lack of what, Chris? A lack of what, Chris?
That was a really good interview too.
Remember this kid on top of the hill, the Algerian kid?
The Algerian kid.
Oh, he was great.
Good.
No, he was up to something.
But there's.
He kept saying, I got snitched. Like 3 times he said I got snitched out by somebody. What's going on with this kid?
This is not about the movie though.
It's either talking about his experiences being an Algerian in Paris and being picked on, or he's an actual criminal who got busted by his friends. So
you could be right.
There's no way of knowing because there wasn't enough of the thing to actually know. But like I said, I think I'm going to point out what Chris said is that one thing, and this came out of this conversation, is that you're right, Chris. This is. The American dream, I would call it Le Rêve Français. Is that
sure.
Good? Is that good?
French? The French dream.
This is beginning of the French dream, the very beginning of it. This is after the war and rebuilding in the 50s and prosperity is coming in. And this is actually a felicitous moment where they're finding out that the Parisians want more than just eating potatoes and staying alive, not being killed by Nazis.
Right.
And so now the Algerian thing's over. They're kind of like seeing their potential in the world, which is like the whole twist thing and like they're part of the thing, and also their own thing. And that is a hopeful sign, which of course he ignores because he's such a fucking communist. But that's just me. You know, he's like, he captures this moment, but he doesn't appreciate the moment. That's the thing.
Well, okay,
I know, right?
Listen, I can't.
It really ticked him off.
I think
appreciation.
We should have black and white photos of.
But Scott said the word appreciation. I can't
hearing.
speak to this movie.
Oh, okay, thank you, but
because you didn't fucking see it.
But appreciation. I want to go back to what Chris said and just examine that word. Meaning, I think if you. All times have we have problems every century, every decade, every year has problems. But I think it's lost on a lot of people that you have to be working for progress, but also appreciate where the fuck you are. And so we are in the best, and also as long as we keep going, we're in the best place we've ever been. Things are better now than they've ever been, ever.
I love this guy
in terms of like so many things.
We live in the best of all possible worlds, am I right?
So, but is it? There's nothing. It's not utopia. There's nothing. Nothing is perfect. But you have to keep.
Voltaire?
I'm just saying, like, you know. Yes, we got to keep working, but appreciate some things. That's all. Sorry,
I like that. I like that, Jared, because I think that kind of transcends, you know, maybe Chris Marker's communist argument or whatever Scott thinks that he's making at the conclusion.
Come on, it's very specific.
but I think when they go to the part where the female narrator, and interesting that those parts are in English, at least in the version that I watched.
It was all in French for me.
I was all in French for me as well. Oh, I saw the Eve's.
Oh no, I'm hearing it in my head in English because I read the subtitles. But that I'm talking about the part where she wraps up what happened in the month of May. Like in Paris, this many baguettes were eaten, this many people died, this many babies were born. It goes beyond politics. And
why couldn't he have stuck with that? That's interesting.
It goes to life and existence, and like Jared said, finding happiness in
people smoked
perfect
900 tons of cigarettes. People had this many potatoes.
Jesus, Scott.
No, I'm saying that's good.
I'm going to shoot you with a tranquilizer dart.
No, I'm saying that's a good thing. He did that. He got to a point at that point. Yes. Also, that whole section with the Arc de Triomphe. Show it again, Chris. The Arc de Triomphe part. That was it. Now we're talking like, you know, this is real cinema. It's like,
also, I thought of Kiyonoshatsu, especially with the trains coming and going in the train station.
Generic points about what's happening. This is a lively, active, living city. He's talking about the statistics about the whole thing. Great. Go there because it's not judgmental. But you had to go a little bit further.
Hold on, though.
All right, wait.
Nobody can be happy here. Nobody can be happy here.
You just need to.
Whoa, hold on, though. Is anybody missing the irony of scene after scene of scenes like the thing behind me? Motherfuckers sitting in bars, smoking chitens and drinking in the afternoon, talking about like this.
Talking about the 30-hour work week.
Lifestyle that most of us would.
That was kind of cool. There was also
true.
some economists talking.
America does not have that European, day.
Cafe culture is the fucking best, man.
They were
I posted this very clip.
It's like that's advanced shit, man.
I posted that very shot in that when I watched this movie the first time last year, which is the subtitle of the guy saying we could have a 30-hour work week right now. They just won't let us do it.
No,
we can do it right now.
They won't let us do it on moral grounds.
We are having this same argument right now in 2024.
Which goes back to what I was saying, that you could do this any fucking year and it'd be the same.
Where's our siestas?
Because what that conversation was about how automation, or AI, if you want to have the conversation in 2024.
I was laughing my head off.
Is going to do the work for us to give us more leisure. That never, ever fucking happens. It just raises the bar as to how much work you can get done in 50 hours a week.
Was the one going, it never does that.
But
it never fucking does that.
But in 62, it seemed possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Now we know.
We're like, wait a minute.
Naivete.
We can do a lot of things. Do a lot of things that people just have to write.
That sounds French.
A computer back in the 1950s and 40s was a person who sat there and did calculations all day long.
Pretty much.
And someone got relieved of that job by machines. And so there is a form of progress that's being made here. And that's the thing. And they talk about that. Now it's actually the fascinating
But it
part
did
of the
not
film.
lead Scott to the 30-hour work week.
No, it did not.
Well, in France
Because-
it did. They
because
have a
in more-
32-hour work week.
They
Yeah,
have
that's because they'll go on strike at the drop of a hat and go out in the street.
Which
All of them.
we
I'm
saw.
all for it.
Fuck, Americans should take a fucking page from that book.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
why didn't they learn that part about revolution?
They were
and
striking
freedom?
this year and big strikes too.
I think we've been doing a lot of that lately.
Yeah, well, I'm
here's the
encouraged about
hoping.
all the unionizing that's going on.
Yeah.
But politics aside, and as far as things being biased, which is Scott's big beef with this movie, I thought this movie was much better take on modernization than Two or Three Things, the Godard film, in
Completely.
that we got to see architects complaining about the apartment buildings that were going up.
Yeah.
But then, after we spent 10 minutes with them saying, you know what we should build instead, we got to see that woman who was fucking giddy at the amount of space she was going to get because she was moving out of the
Yes.
slums
Right.
and she was moving into a
Yes.
nice new apartment.
Yes.
That's
Well, there you go.
That's still
There you
happening.
go.
Remember, also
That's still
around
happening
this
every
time,
day in
John,
France.
the birth control pill is coming into vogue,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is going to relieve women
Yeah.
like her in the
That's right.
future
It's like-
from having
But-
8
but-
children or 12
Right.
I mean, I've read articles where that's the
disclosure.
argument for the existence of the birth control pill was like the biggest thing that's happened in maybe
It is.
ever.
It
in
changed
like,
everything.
Full
in
disclosure,
our
when they
existence.
panned
It really
around her
did.
house with all, when they panned around her house with all those fucking kids, like that's literally
Yeah.
hell for me.
Yeah, but that's like
How interesting was it to see what the slums of Paris looked like in the 60s? Those little,
Yeah.
narrow,
Yeah.
little...
but they're narrow,
um,
but you know what? They were
sidewalks.
very, it was weird because they're
You know what it reminded me of? The flick I showed that was Belgian, where she's like growing dope in a
Oh, yeah, yeah, like
container
that.
car
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
whatever.
I like that
It
movie.
had that same vibe. that-
Yeah,
weird.
Tori and
They were
Lokita.
going through these little narrow, like you can barely touch both walls when you're walking.
Yeah,
through this.
right.
Yeah, but it was also very tidy. You notice that?
Yeah.
It was like there wasn't
I mean,
garbage or trash
yeah,
or
I mean-
graffiti anywhere. It was like a really well maintained area. It was like very. I thought it was kind of a strange contrast, you know. And also, there's little kids playing around. They're perfectly safe, right? Like goofing off, following
Yes.
the cameraman around,
Yeah.
you know, just doing their thing. It's like it was
We
interesting.
assume.
Yeah, there you know there's life everywhere. You know, it's like there's still people living in slums in Paris. That's
Hey,
how-
man, it
Remember
looked
that-
a lot
there was
better
that
than
film
the
we saw
tent-
about the
Well,
film we saw about the prisoner
slums have
in
moved
that
to the
Algerian prisoner in
suburbs
France.
Yeah,
Remember that
right.
one?
It looked a lot better than the
Yeah,
tent cities and
that-
shit that we see around
Yeah,
that we see around
That was a
ours.
good-
California.
that's a good contrast. It's like a lot of things haven't changed.
Well, and Hoovervilles back during the Depression, right?
Right.
There were real like shanty towns growing up on the outskirts of town.
Mhm.
I
Well-
don't. I like this movie a lot. And
You know what?
I love
I'm
it.
going to soften a little tiny bit because I think that he backed into capturing a moment in history that actually wasn't
sure.
like all other ones. It was actually about France coming to its modern state.
yes.
Even though he
Well-
did not know he was doing this.
Scott thinks he
well,
inadvertently made a
he
good
had
movie.
Oh, come on.
He fell into it.
He did. The guy has a fucking axe to grind the entire film, and he does it. You know, it's like
I
because-
just never picked up
Well,
on it.
most filmmakers have
okay.
an
That scene
axe
behind you to
grind.
the end, Chris. It's
just
all
you
about
agree
him
with
saying
it or
that
not.
we're not going to be perfect until there's no is all.
The funny thing
quality
is,
and-
Jim, I think
No,
Scott
but
more or less does agree with it.
It was like for me, it was just like
It's just
we're
too.
going to talk to this Algerian
face.
guy because obviously the French-Algerian war thing is a really big deal at this moment. Let's get some perspective from an Algerian kid who's taking shit all day.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Like
That was pretty
Like a
interesting. Are
black
you a
guy, too,
racist
you
now?
know?
I was going to be a racist, and I thought better of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But like I said,
Anyway,
I think that
Scott sort of mentioned this, but you have to realize that since the United States recovered from the war really quickly because we didn't have any battles being fought here,
we didn't
you
have
know,
it at
whereas
cities you
in
have to
Europe-
rebuild.
they spent the 50s rebuilding.
Yeah.
That led to,
Right.
and then at
45
some
to
point,
60, it was placed as a
inflation
wreck.
kicks in because they had to. Did you notice they were quoting prices in two different new francs and old francs?
Yeah.
In fact, they mentioned new francs.
they're
at one
adopting new.
What
franc
did
that
they
time.
do, Jim? They
They
revalued the
dropped
currency?
off like 3 zeros or something.
Yeah, they had to
Two
because of
zeros.
hyperinflation after the war.
Yeah,
and they had to
after the
kinda-
war.
Yeah, but this was before the European Union, so they had to kind of like run their own economy, and it was tough.
Right.
And so, like I said, it was a lot of hardship. You know, same thing with like, remember that Absolute Beginners are talking about England 1959, almost the same year.
Right.
Everyone was just coming out of a lot of privation. You know what I mean?
Like my aunt, who's Danish, she talked a lot about, you know, post-war Denmark. They had rationing up until the early 60s.
Oh, yeah.
The rationing was going on just like as though it was the wartime. Whereas in America, it's like, okay, let's start.
Because everything was bomb flat.
Let's party.
There were no distribution ports. No nothing. There was like,
that was what we were doing.
Yeah. But it did show a glimmer of a bright Parisian French future. And
yeah, we saw those guys doing the twist.
Yeah, it was, the thing is like, he was his, I think that Chris Marker was his own worst enemy. That's the only thing I'm trying to tell you, man. It's like, you know, if he hadn't like, you know, all that college that goth bullshit about death and communism going through his head, it would have made something transcendent. If it was, he kept getting in his own way all the time.
Okay, if we can move aside from
politics, like your opinion, man.
Did you say we can move aside from politics?
That's just like your opinion, man.
If we could set aside the politics for a second.
How, John?
Be careful. There's a.
I want to talk about the filmmaking. God damn it, Jesus.
John.
I wanted to say that. Who's seen his films, Sans Soleil? Chris Marker.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. We got two. This is interesting to me in terms of his development as a filmmaker, because this is pretty. He keeps things sort of separated into lanes. It's like, here's the part with the voiceover and my opinions, and here's the part with the, you know, on the street interviews, and it's kind of got a pretty specific structure. By the time he gets to Sans Soleil, and I don't have the year written down, 83. I do have the year written down. He is really loosened up. He's probably started smoking pot. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's all voiceover and sort of essay, and then just. It's more of a Mondo film, really, because it's like he's just filming all this different stuff.
Revolution at that point, it doesn't really matter. I guess
it's got like a real tone to it.
Also, I mean, another caveat: wonder how much of this particular viewpoint is him or the
other director,
Pierre Lhomme. It could be Pierre Lhomme.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, so we don't know. You know, it's like either way, the result's the same.
Okay.
All right. So,
I love Scott.
I guess we can go.
I'm here.
I love you, Scott.
I'm here. Definitely here.
I'm sorry, man. You call it.
You got to. All of us has to call it like we see.
All movies are good.
All movies are good. All movies are good.
Some are just fantastic.
I'm giving it a thumbs up just because all movies are good.
Okay, admittedly, it pushed all my college buttons.
I did push Scott's buttons clearly.
Oh,
I mean, I saw the reason I saw La Jetée was because of college, by the way.
Every week, every week, I learn about different buttons on Scott. So I thought your class. I
tend to be. I want to lean, but I want to.